My name is Roberto, but everyone calls me Beto. I'm 87 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my granddaughter asked me a question I haven't been able to get out of my head. A question so simple that anyone could ask it, but so profound that it's kept me up almost every night since. She asked, "Grandpa, if you could live your life all over again, what would you do differently?" And when I opened my mouth to answer, I realized something terrifying. I didn't have an answer prepared. After 87 years on this planet, I'd never really stopped to think about that question. I was sitting in my favorite armchair, the one by the window in my apartment. My granddaughter Sophia had come to visit, as she does every Sunday. She's 24, just finished college, and is at that point in life where everything seems both possible and terrifying. We were having coffee when she asked me, and something about the way she said it, with that mixture of genuine curiosity and a need for guidance, struck me right in the chest. I remained silent for what seemed like an eternity. Sophia looked at me, waiting for some pearl of wisdom from her elderly grandfather. And I had nothing, absolutely nothing, because the truth is, I had never thought about my life that way. I had always been too busy living it, surviving it, getting from one day to the next. That night, after Sophia left, I stayed up until 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. The question kept going around in my head like a broken record. If I could go back, what would I change? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized something unsettling. I had lived 87 years almost entirely on autopilot. Let me tell you about my life. I was born in 1937 in a small town on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. My father worked in a textile factory. My mother stayed home taking care of my 4 siblings and me. We were poor, but we didn't know it. Everyone in the neighborhood was poor, so it seemed normal to us. When I was 18, in 1955, I got a job at the same factory where my father worked. Not because I wanted to work there, but because it was expected. My father got me the job. He told me I was lucky to have it, and I believed I was. I worked at that factory for 42 years. 42 years doing the same job in the same building with the same people. I married Elena when I was 23. We met at a neighborhood dance. She was beautiful, with dark eyes that sparkled when she laughed. We got married 6 months after meeting because that's how things were done back then. You didn't take years to decide if someone was right for you. You just got married and made it work. We had 3 children, Miguel in 1961, Carolina in 1963, and Pablo in 1966. They were good children. Now they are adults with their own families, good adults. But when I think about their childhood, I realize something painful. I was there, but I wasn't really present. I worked Monday through Saturday. I left home at 6 in the morning and returned at 7 at night. On Sundays, I slept in, watched football in the afternoon, and on Monday, it all started again. That was my routine for 42 years, and I never questioned whether there was another way to live. I remember when Miguel was 7 years old. He came running to show me a drawing he'd done at school. I was reading the newspaper. I said, "Very good, son," without even really looking at it. I saw his face light up with my approval, and then he ran off. I don't remember what was in that drawing. I hardly remember anything from those little moments that I now know were actually the big moments. When Carolina was 15, she went through a difficult time. Problems at school, problems with friends. Elena mentioned it to me several times. She told me we should talk to her, spend more time with her. I always said, "Yes, this weekend," or "I'll talk to her after work." I never did. And Carolina sorted it out on her own, I suppose. But when I think about it now, I wonder what would have happened if I had actually been there. if I had listened instead of just waiting for my turn to speak. Pablo was my last attempt to do things right. When he was born, I promised myself I would be different with him, that I would be a better father. And for a few weeks, maybe months, I really tried. I would come home and play with him. I would read him stories. But little by little, without realizing it, I fell back into my old patterns. Work, routine, distance. Elena never complained. Well, not directly, but there was a sadness in her eyes that grew over the years. A resignation. We did what we were supposed to do. I worked, she took care of the house and the children. We fulfilled our roles, but somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and became roommates who shared a life. I retired in 1997. I was 60 years old. I thought I would finally have time to do all the things I had always wanted to do. Travel, learn to play guitar, spend time with my grandchildren. But the truth is, I didn't know what to do with myself. I had spent 42 years defined by my work. Without it, I didn't know who I was. The first few months were strange. I woke up early out of habit. I had breakfast, and then nothing. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. I started going to a cafe near my house. I would sit there for hours, drinking coffee, reading the newspaper slowly so it would last longer. Other retirees were doing the same. We sat at our separate tables, each in our own silence. Elena died in 2005, pancreatic cancer. Only 4 months passed from her diagnosis to her death. 4 months that slipped by in a blur. I remember sitting by her bedside in the hospital, holding her hand, and realizing there were so many things I'd never said to her. So many conversations we never had. So many moments we let slip away. The night before she died, when she was half asleep from the medication, she opened her eyes and looked at me. She said, "You were a good man, Roberto, a good provider." And she closed her eyes again. I should have felt okay about that, but I didn't, because I realized what she didn't say. She didn't say I was a good husband. She didn't say I was romantic or attentive or present. She said I was a good provider, as if our 47-year marriage had been merely a financial arrangement. After her death, I fell into a kind of fog. My children would come to visit, making sure I was eating, that the house was clean. But I could see in their eyes that they didn't really know what to say to me, and I didn't know what to say to them. We had spent decades in the same house without really knowing each other. The years passed, 2006, 2007, 2008. The days blended into one another. I would wake up, have breakfast, watch television, eat lunch, watch more television, and go to sleep. Occasionally someone would come to visit me. Birthdays, Christmas, New Year's. I would smile, say the right things, and carry on. In 2010, I had a minor stroke. Nothing serious, the doctors told me. But it scared me. I spent 3 days in the hospital, and during those 3 days, I thought a lot about death. Not out of fear, really. More out of curiosity. I wondered what it would feel like, if it would hurt, if I would even know it was happening. But I survived. And when I left the hospital, something had changed. I couldn't explain exactly what, but I began to notice things I'd never noticed before. The way the light streamed through my window in the mornings. The sound of children playing in the park near my house. The real taste of my coffee, not just the mechanical act of drinking it. I started going for walks. Not for exercise, although I suppose that helped, but because I liked to observe, to see people living their lives, mothers with their children, young couples holding hands, elderly people like me, some alone, some accompanied. One day, about 5 years ago, I was sitting on a park bench, when a young couple sat down near me. They were arguing. He was telling her he needed to work longer hours to save up for a house. She was telling him he already worked too much, that they were never together. And as I listened to them, without really meaning to, I saw myself. I saw myself at 25, saying the same things, making the same excuses. I wanted to tell them something. I wanted to warn them. But what was I going to say? A strange old man approaching them to give unsolicited advice. They would have left. And besides, they wouldn't have believed me. Nobody believes until it's too late. My grandchildren started to grow up. Sophia, Miguel's daughter, was always special to me. I don't know exactly why. Maybe because she resembled Elena, or maybe because she was the only one who seemed genuinely interested in talking to me. The others came out of obligation. Sophia came because she wanted to. She started visiting me every Sunday when I was 19. She would bring pastries from my favorite bakery. We would sit and talk. At first, I didn't know what to talk about with a 19-year-old girl, but she would ask questions about my life, about my job, about how things used to be. And little by little, I began to open up. I told her things I'd never told anyone, about my regrets, about my marriage to Elena, about how I felt I'd wasted so much time. And Sophia listened. She really listened, without judging, without trying to fix anything. She just listened. 3 weeks ago, Sophia arrived earlier than usual. She seemed worried. I asked her what was wrong. She told me she had received a job offer in Spain. A good job, well paid, with opportunities for advancement. But it meant leaving Argentina, leaving her family, leaving everything she knew. I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she didn't know. That her dad kept telling her to take the job, that it was a great opportunity, that her mom kept telling her that family was more important, that her friends kept telling her it would be an amazing adventure, but she didn't really know what she wanted. And that's when he asked me the question, "Grandpa, if you could relive your life from the beginning, what would you do differently?" I remained silent, because the answer I wanted to give her was complicated. It wasn't a simple take the job or stay with your family. It was something much deeper than that. That night, after she left, I really thought about her question, and I realized something. It wasn't about the big decisions. It wasn't about whether I should have taken a different job or lived somewhere different. It was about all the little decisions I made every single day for 87 years. I realized I'd been living my life on autopilot, doing what was expected of me, following the script society had written for me. Work hard, provide for your family, don't complain, endure. Those were the rules, and I followed them perfectly. But at what cost? I never asked Elena what she dreamed about. I never had a real conversation with my children about their fears or hopes. I never stopped to ask myself if I was happy or if I was just existing. And now, at 87, with more time behind me than ahead, I finally understand something I should have understood decades ago. Life isn't about following the script. It's about writing your own story. Sophia came again last Sunday. I told her I wanted to talk to her about her question. We sat down as usual with coffee and pastries, and I told her the truth. I told her that if I could go back, I would do almost everything differently. I told her I would have worked less and lived more, that I would have taken risks instead of always playing it safe, that I would have told Elena every day how much she meant to me instead of assuming she knew, that I would have gone to my son's football matches instead of watching them on television. I told her I would have done the things that scared me instead of the easy ones. that I would have traveled when I was young instead of waiting until I was old, that I would have learned to play the guitar even though I was bad at it, that I would have danced with Elena in the kitchen instead of worrying about what the neighbors thought. I told her I would have had real conversations with the people I loved instead of just talking about the weather, that I would have asked, "How are you really?" and waited for the genuine answer, that I would have said, "I love you," without needing a special occasion. And then I said something that surprised her. I told her that her question wasn't really about working in Spain. The real question was she going to live her life, or was she going to let her life live her? I told her that all the advice she was getting from her dad, her mom, her friends, was coming from a good place. But none of them would live with the consequences of their decision. Only she would. And that 50 or 60 years from now, when she was sitting where I was now, the question wouldn't be whether she took the right job. The question would be whether she lived authentically, whether she followed her heart, whether she dared to be herself. Sophia started to cry, and so did I, because as I was saying all this to her, I realized I wasn't just giving her advice. I was talking to myself, to the Roberto of 25, to the Roberto of 40, to the Roberto of 60, to all the Robertos who let life pass them by without truly living it. Here's what I've learned after 87 years on this planet. Most people don't live unhappy lives because terrible things happen to them. They live unhappy lives because they never dare to live the lives they truly want, because they're afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of disappointing others, afraid of being different. And that fear paralyzes them. It keeps them in jobs they hate, in relationships that don't nourish them, in lives that don't feel like their own. And they tell themselves that someday things will change, that someday they'll have the courage, that someday they'll truly live, but that someday never comes, because life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Life is now. This moment, this day, and every day you wait is a day you'll never get back. When I was young, I thought I had all the time in the world. I thought I could do the important things later. First, I would work hard, save money, and secure my future. And then, when everything was in order, I would live. But things were never quite right. There was always something else to do, another goal to achieve, another reason to postpone real life. And before I knew it, I was 60 and retiring from a job I never liked. I had a paid-off house and money in the bank, but an empty life. Young people see me and think I have it all figured out because I'm old. They think age automatically brings wisdom, but it doesn't. You can live 87 years and never learn a thing. You can spend decades repeating the same mistakes, living the same patterns, never questioning, never growing. I wasted most of my life, and I can't get it back. I can't go back and hug Elena one more time. I can't go back and play with my children when they were little. I can't relive any of those moments I let slip away, but you can. If you're reading this, if you're listening, you still have time. It doesn't matter how old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50. You still have time to change course, to start living intentionally instead of automatically. And I'm not saying you should quit your jobs and move to the beach. It's not about that. It's about being present. It's about making conscious choices instead of just letting life take you where it wants. It's about regularly asking yourself, is this the life I want to live? Are these the choices I want to make? Is this the person I want to be? It's about telling the people you love that you love them. Not tomorrow, not when the time is perfect. Today, now. It's about having real conversations, about being vulnerable, about risking rejection because the alternative, which is regret, is so much worse. It's about doing the things that scare you, because fear is just a sign that something matters, and if you spend your life avoiding everything that scares you, you'll end up with a very small, very safe, and very empty life. Sophia decided to take the job in Spain. She's leaving next month, and she told me that part of the reason she made that decision was our conversation. She realized that the real risk wasn't leaving. The real risk was staying out of fear and spending the rest of her life wondering, what if? I'm proud of her. And a little jealous too, if I'm honest. Jealous that she has her whole life ahead of her, that she learned at 24 what took me 87 years to learn, that she won't make the same mistakes I did. But I also feel hopeful, because if Sophia could listen, maybe others can too. Maybe someone reading this, someone stuck in that job they hate, or that relationship that isn't working, or that life that doesn't feel like their own, might listen and make a change before it's too late. I don't have much time left. The doctors don't tell me directly, but I know. I can feel it. My body is slowly shutting down, and that's okay. I've lived a long life, though not always a wise one. But before I go, I want to share these conversations. I want my story with all its mistakes and regrets to help someone else live differently, better, more authentically. If anything I said resonated with you, if it made you think about your own life, share it. Share it with someone who's putting off their happiness, with someone who's living on autopilot, with someone who needs to hear that there's still time to change, and leave me a comment. Tell me one thing, just one, that you're going to do differently tomorrow, a call you're going to make, a conversation you're going to have, a risk you're going to take. Because when you read this and then go on with your day without changing a thing, you will have wasted these words, and I will have wasted my time sharing them. Subscribe, because I have more stories to tell. Stories about love, about loss, about the lessons you only learn when it's almost too late. I won't be here forever, but while I am, I want to use this time to talk to people who really want to listen, people who still have the chance to do things differently. Your life is happening right now, as you read this, as you think about all the reasons why you can't change yet. It's happening, and every second you let slip by is a second you'll never get back. Sophia's question changed my life, but not because it gave me new answers. Rather because it forced me to confront truths I had been avoiding for 87 years. The truth that I lived a half-life, the truth that I let fear rule me, the truth that I could have been so much more than I was. But for you, there is still time. You can still choose differently. You can still live the life you truly want instead of the life you think you should want. What are you going to do with that time? That's the question, and only you can answer it.